Grab yourself the Pro-X cable, plug it in, and you've got comms and fantastic gaming, kind of spatial accuracy and detail, all in one simple setup. Hey folks, welcome to another Passion for Sound audio review. Today we're taking a look at a product that's a little bit different from the normal, and that's because it's kind of like a USB dongle, but it's also actually built into a cable. What I'm specifically talking about are the Pro-X USB cables from Beyerdynamic. These are designed to go specifically with the DT700 Pro-X and the DT900 Pro-X, but they'll also work with older models such as the DT1770 and the DT1990. So basically at $99 you're getting yourself an inline dongle as part of a cable with a 3-pin mini XLR plug that attaches to your headphones. The cable I've got here is the one in question. It's available both in USB-C and Lightning connection, so it'll work with Apple or Android and obviously PC or Mac. And for $99, what you're getting, as I've already said, is at one end a USB style connection of some sort, either Lightning or USB-C. There's no USB-A or anything like that, it's only the USB-C. And then up through the cable, if I untangle it a little bit, in the middle here we've got the actual DAC section, but also volume controls. So if you are plugging it into a smart device, you can pause playback, you can do volume up and down, etc. And then you've also got a microphone up here, so this will also work as your communications device. And so essentially what that means is that you can very quickly turn a pair of DT700, 900, 1770 or 1990s into a fully featured comms device and editing, mixing, mastering device just with a single cable. And this is really what this is intended for. This is a tool designed mostly for creators according to all the marketing, and I can definitely see why. Because very simply, you can take yourself just a pair of, say, DT700s, you can plug in one of these, and then you can connect up to your computer, and that's all you need for editing, mixing, mastering, taking video calls, phone calls through your computer. You can connect it to your smartphone or your tablet, of course. It's just a very versatile device, assuming it sounds good. Before I get to how it sounds, let me tell you what's going on inside these, and this is identical whether it's the Lightning or the USB-C version. On the inside, you've got the ES9280 chip, if that matters to you. One thing that does mean though is it's going to give you decoding up to high sample rate PCM of 384 kHz and 24-bit. And something that I also think is quite cool is it's going to give you IP65 rating. Now what that means is that you can use it without worrying about dust or moisture damaging the device. And so it's very much kind of one of those rugged, go everywhere kind of products. It's not to suggest you should go out running with it or anything like that. It's going to be cumbersome and clumsy for that. But the point is, if you are traveling around and you have it laying across a desk and you spill a drink or something, it's not going to matter. And so that's really where I see them making this IP65 rated, is just to protect it from day-to-day use, accidents, just life in general. And again, this comes back to the idea that Beyerdynamic are pushing this very much as a creator's tool. And so I've kept that in the back of my mind as I've reviewed this and thought about the use cases where I think it's going to work and maybe not work for people. But let's now talk about sound quality after one final point, which is that the little device, the middle part of the device where the buttons are, it's probably worth noting that gets a little bit warm in use. Because it's both a DAC and a headphone amplifier driving a full-size pair of headphones, it does get warm. Not uncomfortable, but it does get warm. So be prepared for that. It's not an issue, it's very normal, but it does get a little bit warm to the touch. If you're trying to work out what piece of gear you should buy next, then the Passion for Sounds Recommends database might be helpful for you. In the description box of every single video, just down here, you'll find the Passion for Sounds Recommends section. If you click on this link, it'll take you through to the Passion for Sounds Recommends Airtable database. What you'll see in here is every single product that I've ever reviewed and recommend, in some cases products that I own but maybe haven't reviewed but recommend. And then once you're in here, you can use the filter button up here to decide to filter by things like whether or not the product type is for a headphone, for example. So maybe you're looking for a headphone, filter it by that, and you can now see every headphone I recommend. You can sort it by price, which is the default sorting, or any other sorting method that you want. And then once you've got the list of products you're looking for, you've got the links to the reviews of the products, and then also purchasing links for global retailers and also regional retailers for the US, Australia, Canada, and the UK. So feel free to play around with this, sort it, filter it however you want to. It won't affect what anybody else sees, and you can hopefully find just the right products for you. I hope this is helpful, and now let's get back to the review. After some initial listening to the Pro-X USB cable, I was generally pretty impressed with how it sounded. It was doing a good job of giving me what seemed to be a very neutral, clean sound with a good sense of authority through the DT700s and the DT900s. I don't have the 1770s or the 1990s to compare here, I'm sorry about that. But through both the 700s and the 900s, I was liking what I heard. But I was curious to know how it compared to maybe just buying a dongle. One of the benefits if you just buy a dongle, of course, is that you can connect it up to absolutely anything. You can use IEMs, you can use headphones. The only drawback of it though, is you're not going to get that nice simple inline volume control and microphone. And so I decided to compare it with the Hidizs XO here. This is a very similar priced dongle compared to the cost of the USB cable. But as I said, you're trading off having the inline controls and the microphone, you're trading that off for the versatility of being able to plug it into any headphone or any IEM you like. And I was curious to see how this compared to the Pro-X USB cable. One of the tracks I used for this test was Magazine by Vera Blue, and the Pro-X sounded very crisp and very clean on this track. Having said that, it was also very well controlled for sibilance. It wasn't overdoing clarity, it wasn't making things harsh or aggressive, but it was very crisp and very clean. Moving over to the XO, and it was a fuller, richer sound. Some would describe this perhaps as being more musical, a bit warmer, a bit less neutral perhaps. And I felt like the bass from the XO was a bit fuller and a bit less tight. So the sound from the Pro-X USB cable is very much a tight, controlled, clean sound. Whereas I do think some would call the Hidizs XO a little bit warmer, a little bit richer. Probably you could say it's a little bit more kind of musical, as I said before. I know that's not a particularly useful and helpful term, but I think it sort of sums it up. What was really interesting though was that even though the XO is actually a warmer and richer sound compared to the Pro-X USB cable, I did find it was getting a bit more aggressive on the treble. And that goes to show just how well I think Beyerdynamic have controlled the tonality of the Pro-X USB cable. It is a very clean and neutral sound. It's not clinical though, and it's definitely not aggressive. And I really like it for that. Going from the XO now back over to the Pro-X, and what I started to hear was that the Pro-X cable is giving you a flatter soundstage than something like the XO here, but at the same time you're getting more sense of articulation and detail from it. And ultimately where all this led me was that for what it seems to be intended for, which is people that are mixing, mastering, professionals doing editing and needing a good reference source through just a pair of simple headphones, I think for that it's absolutely fantastic. And indeed it's a product that I'm considering how I can work into my workflow. I don't work much on a laptop, and so I'm normally sitting here at my desk with all this other gear around me, and I very rarely need it. But I really like the Pro-X cable so much that I almost want to find a way to make it work. I was really enjoying what I was hearing pairing up the 700s or the 900s, but for some reason, particularly the 700s with the Pro-X USB cable, it was just a great combination. It turned the Pro-X into a wonderful closed-back sort of mixing mastering source that in the case of the 700 Pro-X isn't entirely neutral because of their tuning. They've got a little bit of kind of coloration in the sound. But the overall result was a sound that I could really enjoy for just general editing and mixing. I wouldn't go so far as suggesting you could use those to actually EQ and get an accurate translation to what's heard on other systems, but certainly for hearing the details, for getting the edits right, all of that sort of usage, I think it's great. And it also happens to turn them into a pretty dynamic and fun portable system. I probably would still lean back to something like the XO for pure music listening. It's generally speaking a little bit more easy to listen to. As I said, it did get a little bit aggressive on Magazine by Vera Blue, but it wasn't too bad, and it's also going to depend on what you're pairing it with. And so I'm going to keep this one pretty short overall and say that if you've got a pair of the DT700 Pro-X, 900 Pro-X, or the older DT1770 or DT1990s, then I would absolutely recommend checking out the USB cable, the Pro-X USB cable. Of course, I only mean that if you actually need that kind of functionality, but it's a really nice combination, particularly, as I said before, if you're in a space where you're using them professionally. If you're mixing, you're mastering, I think that'd also be fantastic for gaming now that I think about it, because you're also going to get your voice comms in line, and so suddenly those 4 headphones that I mentioned before, those could become fully fledged gaming monsters. I know many of you use the DT1990s for gaming, and this would be an absolutely perfect combo. Grab yourself the Pro-X cable, plug it in, and you've got comms and fantastic gaming, kind of spatial accuracy and detail, all in one simple setup. And so if that sounds good to you, I'll hunt around, I'll pop some links down in the description below. They're probably going to be affiliate links through Amazon, so thank you to anyone that uses them. And regardless of whether you're buying, I hope you found this video useful, helpful, informative, etc. If you have, I'd love it if you hit the like button, and consider subscribing and ring the notification bell if you haven't already. But for now, let me leave it to the music, so happy listening, and I'll see you here next time on Passion for Sound.